Good morning, everyone. Just to kind of before we dive into today's session, I always like to ask questions at the start. Obviously, we're talking quite a lot about communication, inclusivity, accessibility, and I always want to make sure, even if it's in person or virtual, that make sure everyone's able to understand me as clear as possible. If you're not feel comfortable to speak up, get yourself off mute, stop me in my tracks, or put a comment in the chat box, or just put your virtual hand up. Robin will keep me right, or I'll try and keep an eye as well. My name is Adam Lodge. I am the training and development worker for Visibility Scotland. Today's session is all about inclusive communication, and this is an introduction to the training courses that I do. Now, normally this course is about 2 to 3 hours. Now, this is kind of a snippet of that course, but the snippet of the course is the most vital information that I've got for you. Now, as Robin said as well, this is getting recorded, so you're not required to remember everything. You can always check the recording afterwards, but I've also created a toolkit as well. Now, this toolkit is all about inclusive communication and how to make your documents and emails accessible. It's all step-by-step guides. It's quite a simplified version of it, but Robin will send you that after today's session as well, along with other material. So if I kind of just firstly talk about Visibility Scotland, I'm quite aware that not many people will know who Visibility Scotland are, what we do, and where we're based. So we are a charity. We are based in Glasgow, Charing Cross, if anyone's familiar with the Glasgow area. We are a charity that obviously helps people with vision impairments. We help them live as independent as possible. Obviously, it's all the key words. You're trying to empower them, trying to push them to reach further goals. That's what we tend to do. But there's many services within Visibility Scotland. So we have obviously the training services, is what I do. So there's multiple training courses that I do on vision impairments. So it's vision impairments awareness, which I go into more details of the barriers and challenges that people face. I also talk about sighted guiding techniques. Now that's how to be a confident sighted guide. That's more directed towards, let's say, care workers, nurses, kind of the people that work with the vulnerable people, and it could be charity workers as well that I kind of direct that training towards. And also the training that could be of interest to many of you is how to be a confident service provider slash employer. And within that, we go down more of the legal requirements for people and what you are meant to do when you do provide a service to vulnerable people, such as people with a vision impairment. As I said, there's other services. So we do have the rehabilitation service within here. Now, if you do know someone who has been recently diagnosed or has been diagnosed with vision impairments for some time, I encourage you to tell them about Visibility Scotland and contact us, because within our rehabilitation service, the individual within Visibility Scotland can go to their homes and teach them about how to make their homes as accessible as possible for them. And again, to make sure they are able to live by themselves and are not able to rely on families and friends, as many people, people with disabilities have to. So they teach them how to make their homes adaptable, let's say, and teach them how to use, let's say, a cane, as well as sometimes, in some cases, a guide dog as well. We also have the digital advisor within Visibility Scotland. Now, this is our digital advisor who goes into a lot more detail that I'll be doing today about assistive technology. Now, again, you can come into our premises and speak to our digital advisor about certain technology that you want to kind of see and get an actual hands-on approach to it. So again, either come into our premises or call us. You'll have our number right at the end of today's session and email addresses as well. So if any of that does interest you, please speak up at the end or follow up with us. Just to kind of talk on what our members do get from us as well, is that we do have cafe days, we do have guitar classes, we do have cooking classes. There's many things that's happening throughout the session. So again, I do always encourage people who I speak to on training sessions to tell their families and friends about us. and to kind of encourage them to come and step into that door. Because when they speak to other peers living with the same condition of them, all of a sudden the negativity leaves them and they get to kind of exchange positive ideas with the other peers. So that's kind of enough about Visibility Scotland. I'll dive into the kind of the course itself today. Um, so a bit of the aims and objectives. I should actually state as well what I tend to do with vision impairment courses as well is that I tend to read off the screen, and that's just in case there's someone in the room who does have a vision impairment. I'm not assuming that someone is in the room, but I always make sure that I'm reading off the screen just to make sure there's no information missed. And I tend not to use that many images as well, because sometimes images are just used for decorative purposes. And for this purpose, there's no need to really have kind of images or photos throughout. But you will see some photos and there will be kind of a slight test when you do see those photos. So today's aims and objectives, you will get some tips for creating screen reader friendly documents. You'll understand the tools and techniques to enhance digital accessibility. You will learn best practices and practical tips for inclusive communication and understand the different types of vision impairments and the challenges and barriers that come with it. Now, again, you will get a condensed version of the vision impairment awareness course that I do, and I thought it's best understand and get to see firsthand what certain vision impairments look like for an individual. So, little bits of introductions. Now, this is to the people that are comfortable to speak right now, if you're willing to. Now, if it's a in-person session, I always want to make sure that people in the room audio describe themselves. Now, by audio description, is you might actually kind of hear this sometimes on the TV. Channel 4 do it quite well, let's say when the Paralympics are on. Or there's also a BBC iPlayer, they have the audio description as well. If you imagine yourself within a meeting setting in person, and there's one person in that meeting that has a vision impairment, let's say they're fully blind and they're unable to see anyone. Let's say there's someone that's stepped into the room who's just dyed their hair. It's a new hair color. They've not said anything, but all of us with sight are able to see that change and see the person kind of happy with their change. But because it's a meeting and everyone needs to be professional, nothing's said. But that person who is visually impaired, they are unable to see that, so they are missing that sort of information. So it's always to be aware of kind of people within the room and their needs and requirements. So sometimes when you are having a meeting, you might put out an email saying, is anything we need to be made aware of, i.e. communication needs, let me know. And that's when someone with a vision impairment may speak up and tell you, by the way, could you describe images and photos to me? And can you limit your use of, as you can see over here, and when we go over here, you will, it just gets confusing world if that kind of makes sense. Again, within the in-depth version of the training, I do dive into more kind of terms we can use. So who is comfortable to introduce themselves, give your name, maybe your job title, where you come from, and audio describe your appearance. Now, I'm not going to ask you I'm not going to tell you what to say with the audio description. I always want to gauge an idea of what you feel that is. So who is comfortable to be the guinea pig in this scenario? Do you see any hands there, Robin?
Not yet. I don't mind in the first one.
Is that you, Cara?
Yes.
No, thank you, Cara. I appreciate that. So if you don't mind, Cara, could you again just state your name, maybe your job title, who you work for, and then a little bit of the audio description.
So my name's Cara Davis. I'm Marketing and Communications Officer, and I work with Cargom. So I have dark brown, grey hair, pale skin with red cheeks and freckles. I'm wearing a light pink jumper, jeans, and trainers. I'm sitting in a chair. I'm fuller figured and quite short.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And if I don't mind putting you on the spot again, just one more time, how did you feel about describing yourself? And have you done that before?
It's not something I've done before. No, it was difficult to try and think what would someone find relevant about me.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that, Cara. Is there one more person that's willing to step up? I see Ryan's hand has popped up there.
Hi Adam, thank you.
No problem.
My name's Ryan Coelho. I'm the Communications Officer at the Scottish Youth Parliament. I have very short dark black hair, and I am wearing a navy long-sleeved jumper today. We have about 150 young people who are members of the Youth Parliament, and as part of that we have RNIB Scotland's Haggai programme, which is their youth engagement project. So we normally encourage our staff and young people to use visual descriptions within meetings and at events. So it's something that the young people we work with are quite common with, but they may not have considered it before we share that with them. But after the first time, they're usually quite comfortable with doing so.
Yeah. I appreciate it, Ryan. And it's good to hear as well these methods are getting used in other areas because it's for me most of the time when I'm speaking to, let's say, the regular Joes, office workers, let's say, and I'm teaching about inclusive communication, I do kind of throw this out there and it's like they're put on the spot because they do kind of feel quite uncomfortable to describe themselves because as you said, not many people are used to doing it. As you said, Cara, as well, it's the first time for yourself. And you made a good point, is that what is relevant? But how do we know what is relevant to that individual without actually knowing who they are? So I'll talk a little bit about my kind of experience and why I like to bring this into meetings. So in the past, I used to be a guide communicator for deafblind individuals. Now, for deafblind individuals, of course, some of them might have some form of little sight left and some hearing left, or about 3% of them are totally deaf and totally blind as well. So majority of them can see a little bit, but that could be lights and shapes and whatnot that come in. So there was one scenario of me being a guide communicator, working for this individual for a few years. But the first year, I never once thought of describing what I was wearing. Now, as a guide communicator, you wear very casual wear because you're not really meant to look like a care worker. You're more meant to look like a buddy type person. So you don't really look too professional. So you are meant to wear your own clothes. So quite a lot of times what I used to do is kind of wear, let's say, artists or bands that I've gone to see, and I'll go and see the individuals who I'm supporting and not really knowing at this time that the person I'm supporting still listens to music. That would just be me being naive, thinking that he's deaf, he can't hear, but he does still have some form of hearing. And with certain hearing aids, especially Bluetooth hearing aids, you are still able to hear music. And again, that's just me being new into that world, and that we're talking about 7 years ago here. Um, so eventually, one day I seen him looking at Spotify and looking through some music, and I seen that he was listening to 1975. And I was wearing a 1975 t-shirt, coincidentally, but I've worn this t-shirt many times before. And all of a sudden, I just kind of had this realization that, wow, he's missed out on this information. Is this me being bad, or is no one's ever said this before? So I talked to him about 1975 and we connected. And all of a sudden, this kind of relationship, this professional relationship became more of like a friendship, let's say. We connected, but we could have connected a year prior if I had told him this information. Now, I always like to tell people this story just in case this ever happens to you. And to your point, Cara, you don't need to describe everything. You don't have to. It's just what you feel like is important. Initially, you might want to describe everything. And then when things change, i.e., you get a nose piercing, you get a tattoo, you've got a big tan because you've been on holiday, you've hair change, stuff like that, you might want to give updates. But it's good to get into habits of doing this. Again, if you were in person, I will get people to describe the setting as well. So you might want to describe the environment and maybe get into a habit of when you do go into a room, if it is a meeting room, to think what is important to describe to the individual themselves with a vision impairment. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to talk now about certain vision impairment conditions. Now, there's going to be video examples for this, but I'd like to talk about the conditions first and see if many people are aware of these type of conditions. Is anyone willing to speak up again to let me know if they know of any certain eye conditions that is out there, any vision impairment conditions? You can state the obvious ones if you wish.
Macular degeneration.
Macular degeneration, that's perfect. And I didn't see the name that popped up there, but just to let you know, in case you do see my other screen, the next slide is macular degeneration. Now, macular degeneration is a common condition out there. It's very common with people with older age. You might have older aunties, uncles, nans, granddads that might have this condition. It's popular with people with older age. It used to be known as age-related macular degeneration, or known as AMD. But now it is getting slightly more common that people with a younger age is getting macular degeneration. So the age-related has kind of drifted away from it now. And this actually affects the center vision. So it affects your retina. So you're unable to see and focus on anything in the middle of your vision. Now, to get a true sense of what this looks like, I'm going to show you a video and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. Video itself should be playing now on the screen, and on the screen you will see Visible Scotland's logo as well. Popping up right now is Macular Degeneration title, and the video itself should play. Right now, within the video, there's a view of the Campsies. If, again, you're familiar with the Glasgow area, it's quite a scenic view of the hills and greenery, but there's a blurred dot that's getting bigger and bigger as time goes on. Now, if you imagine someone who's diagnosed early on, they could have like a tiny, tiny dot in the center of the vision that they might not know it's there. A few years go by, that dot could be about 1 centimeter wide within their vision. And then before you know it, let's say 20 to 30 years have gone by, and all they've got left is their peripheral vision. Now, that's the vision that is just around the edge of your vision. If you can see in the screen, I'm just going along the edge of the box that I am in. They weren't able to see the center of the vision. So let's say for documents, for instance, for this person with this type of condition, if they have a document in front of them and they are unable to focus on words, they might just be able to make out words with their peripheral vision, but they're unable to focus on documents and unable to focus on people's facial expressions as well. So when you are talking to people directly, for instance, if you are talking about a funny joke, you're giving someone a joke, you're not knowing if they are laughing unless they make the sound itself. So they might maybe want to turn slightly sideways, so they might be able to see with their left or right peripheral, or even look down as well. Many people with this condition, when they are walking down the streets, for instance, in case they don't want to walk into people or lampposts or bus stops, they will look down, but will be focusing with the upper peripheral vision. Because again, if they're looking up, they won't be able to see what's ahead of them. Now, there's another condition out there, which is the opposite of macular degeneration. Does anyone know what that is called? No? That's fine. I'll throw in there. There's the term called tunnel vision, but the medical term for that is retinitis pigmentosa. So retinitis pigmentosa, as I said, is basically the opposite of macular degeneration. Within this condition, they only have their central vision. They have no peripheral vision. So for this person, they are able to read documents. They might have, let's say, 10% of their vision left in the center vision, and able to read, able to look at their phone, able to watch TV and follow subtitles, but they're unable to see the hazards approach them from the side. So again, just got a quick video here, and I'll play this here for you. Again, Visible Scotland's logo does appear for every video that I have. And then we have a title here, Retinitis Pigmentosa, Navigating Stairs Outside. Again, at the moment, there's probably about 20 to 30% of central vision left here. And again, this person right now is, if you recognize the area, this is Croy train station. There is stairs leading from the car park area, and there's some barriers that the person's facing at the moment. You may have noticed it if you can make it out. I will talk about the barriers in a minute and the hazards that they are kind of touching, but they're basically trying to walk down the stairs using the handrail. The video itself now will stop. There will be a pause instance. I'm not going to ask you what you can see because I'll describe it for you, but I want you to see a clear vision and retinitis pigmentosa side by side. Let's imagine that sign there for the car park is a timetable for a train station, for instance. Let's say they're walking to the platform and on that timetable it says train cancelled. That person has missed that information because they're in a rush, like many of us are, let's say in the morning, trying to get to that train to get to work. They missed that because they didn't scan. They didn't know maybe it was there. So when they get to the platform, they have to wait. So, for instance, for this person, they've come down the stairs and they've encountered another barrier. There's these overgrown hedges that's on the handrails. So when they're coming down thinking, oh, handrail, this is safe for me to travel down. It's not. They've now put their hands in nettles and then now they need to navigate to the other sides. And again, hoping that it's not busy with people rushing from behind. So there's many people out there that always say that they do prefer to have retinitis pigmentosa over macular degeneration because they are able to still read information. But what comes with retinitis pigmentosa is also night blindness. So within night blindness, that happens when, let's say, you're inside a bright environment, let's say you're in an office majority of the day, and typical Scotland, when you finish work, it is dark outside, especially in the winter months. For a person with retinitis pigmentosa, because they have limited light passage coming through, because they have that central vision only left, they have no light when they go outside because there's limited light left, meaning there's limited light to go into their eyes as well, which in turn makes them blind when they do step outside. So information around them, even in the center vision, is completely disappeared as well. That can happen as well when someone steps into a new place, going from a dull environment, quite a dark environment, to a bright setting. It could be too bright for them, and it could be quite a white flash that they could have, and they could have some form of white blindness for a while as well. There's another condition out here, a common condition as well, but not many people do have heard of it, is diabetic retinopathy. Now, as obvious as this is people with diabetes, but it's the people that do not stay on top of their diabetes. It's basically people that aren't eating and drinking appropriately, and they are not keeping on top of, let's say, their medication. This is what could happen to people like that. And again, I will be showing a video. Video should pop up here. Apologies. Video should start playing here. And again, people, when they do watch this video, they tend to feel like, oh, I sometimes get these. And what I mean by these are floaters going across your vision. Now, they might be smaller, little floaters. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute, but I'll just talk about diabetic retinopathy here. With these floaters for diabetic retinopathy, it could be red, it could be black, it could be white, it could be burst blood vessels. So you could get some blood going across your vision as well. This is a severe case. So this is what happens again. A few years have gone by and you've not kept on top of your diabetes. All of a sudden you have these floaters, aggressive floaters, different shapes and sizes going across your vision. And again, you're unable to focus beyond those floaters, i.e. you're unable to read documents on most days. The other floaters, now, again, if someone is comfortable to speak up, you could please let me know. Does anyone suffer with any floaters within their vision? No, that's fine. I do occasionally. I suffer with migraines quite often. When I do get migraines, I do tend to get these floaters and very short white lights within my vision. And that's an early sign for me, is basically telling me that I need to find a dark space. I need to go away and be away from light. It's also for people who drink too much coffee and are too stressed and don't get enough sleep. So some days you may wake up with these floaters, and that's because it's one of those 3 or 4 reasons: migraines, stress, you have no sleep, and you drink too much coffee. That's me most days, to be honest. And finally, one more condition. Again, a common condition that is out there is called cataracts. And again, very common with people of older age, but this completely affects all of the vision. It's when light is trying to come in, it's very sharp, bright light that's trying to come in, it makes it very blurred for that person. Again, just to put this into true perspective, I'll show you a video here and you'll be able to understand what this looks like. Now, the title here says Cataracts using a ticket machine. And again, imagine a train station, many ticket machines around there. But the issue with these ticket machines is that there's lots of glare that reflects off the screen itself. It could be a sunny day, and these reflections makes it very hard for this individual to see what's on the screen. But as you can see, they have some vision. They're able to see shapes, they're able to see colors, but again, they can't focus beyond that blurred line. So sometimes what an individual would do for this case, again, they want to get a train ticket, but they know, oh, my Glasgow train ticket is always that first rectangle that is blue. I'll always click on that and I'll get my card. Don't need to type in any data. I'll just tap my card itself. But what I've now realized is that Glasgow rectangle function is not always there. It's based off popularity. It gets moved around. So if an individual gets told by, let's say, someone who works at a train station, "Oh, I'll help you. Don't worry. The next time you're here, you'll be able to find it," that is not correct. What we encourage individuals to do in this instance is actually go to the ticket booth and make sure you get the appropriate ticket. Now you might be questioning, do not all people who are visually impaired, who are blind, get free public transport? Yes, that is the case, but many of our members choose not to get free benefits. They hate the term free. So quite a lot of people tend to still try and buy the ticket. So this is just that example. Now I'm just going to show you one video here that shows you what it looks like for someone with cataracts when you're trying to read a document. Now, imagine the document that's in front of you right now. You might have some paper around you. The paper itself is always normally white. And when paper is white, it reflects still quite a lot. There's still a lot of lights coming from that. So I'm just going to play this video here so you get a true idea of what it kind of looks like for someone. So normal document at the moment with normal vision. Someone's reading through it, and all of a sudden now there's someone with cataracts. Now, this is kind of light version of cataracts, looking at a document, and it starts to gradually get worse and worse. Let's say there's more light coming in. All of a sudden, this document becomes virtually impossible to see. If they do try and look at this document, try and focus, that's when they become tired and headaches will arise. So that's why it's very important to ask people when you are sending documents to them, what format do you prefer? Now, this individual may actually prefer a black background with white text because that white is not there, that bright light is no longer there, meaning that they might be able to focus on the white text, and that black background will be there as an aid for them. Any questions on any vision impairment conditions out there? Has anyone think about any other conditions that is out there that wants to have questions, answers to it? That's no problem. we will stick to actually today's session subject anyway of inclusive communication. But as I said, it's always a good idea to understand what conditions look like when people are getting in touch with you and telling you, oh, actually, I have cataracts. Now you're slightly aware of it.
Interestingly, sorry, there's a
please,
question from Julie in the chat there. That's quite interesting. Is
Mhm.
color blindness classed as a vision impairment?
It is. Yes, it is. It's not you can't be registered with color blindness, like on the register, for instance. It's not classed as severe or partially sighted, but you do have an impairment due to the fact that quite a lot of information that's out there is color coded, let's say. So if someone does follow up with you and say that I do have color blindness, could you help me here? Could you make sure things are black and white, for instance? Or could you make the point to me to let me know which are the colors within that? And that's especially in terms when it's, let's say, comes to charts as well. People are unable to see colors within charts, especially when there's multiple information within a chart itself. It's always good to have kind of a description underneath a chart or a pie chart or whatever as well to make people aware of it as well. But yeah, no, very good question. Very good question.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you. So if you also think about barriers, so not just in, let's say, workplace environments, think about, let's say, within education as well. Think about people growing up with a sight impairment, having to be in school, in a regular school, not a school for the blind, in a regular school. Like teachers need to be made aware of what adaptations they can give to the individual. So we do many talks to teachers as well, but as we know, it's all about funding and what the government gives to the teachers to help the children within these conditions. We don't want to push people to the blind school. The blind school is out there, but mainly as a last resort, let's say. Also think about shopping as well. Like every time you go down an aisle, there's all this information around you. How is someone meant to tell the difference between two tins when they're the same shape, same size, and it could have similar branding as well? So there's certain things out there, the same techniques that we do teach our individuals, but there's certain apps that you could be made aware of. There's an app called Seeing AI. Now, Seeing AI and the letters AI. It's an app out there that you can download for Android or for Apple, and that can take a picture of a product for the individual themselves, and they can describe it to them. It will tell them exactly what it is. Or another step what you can do is they can scan the barcode that's on there. Now, if someone is completely blind, they might not be able to see that barcode. But what's good about this app is that they can put the tin within the camera itself. Let's say my hand is a tin, and then slowly turn it, and then the camera itself will register that barcode and then read out. And in some cases, will read out the full description of, let's say, that tin. And in other cases, some other barriers and challenges would be public transport as well. How is someone meant to know that the number 2 is coming down? How is someone meant to know when their stop is there? How is someone meant to know on the train, for instance, that that carriage that they're sat in is not going to be on the platform? It's going to be the other carriage. So there's lots of information out there that we hear all the time that we are like, we're listening to it, but it's not relevant to ourselves. So again, it's always being very aware of information that we take for granted. So there's a question that I would like an answer to from at least one person, if that is okay. Now, there's why should we use inclusive communication? This is the question I asked to majority of people. Does anyone know why we use inclusive communication? Does anyone want to speak up and express themselves a little bit?
Equal opportunities, making sure everyone's able to participate and is supported to do so.
Spot on, Victoria. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anyone to add to that? Equal opportunities? That's essentially. Well, oh, sorry, Emma. I interrupted you there.
I work for a blood cancer charity, and it doesn't care whether you have a visual impairment or otherwise, and you still have the same right to the information and support as everyone else.
Yes. Exactly, and that's human rights. So you have a right to access information. That is one basic right. But an access to information is very difficult for certain people with certain vulnerabilities, especially people with a vision impairment, let's say. So there's many people that I do speak to is like, well, their priority is not to make their documents accessible. Their priority is to make sure someone, let's say, within a wheelchair, is living a full life and can get some employment. They don't think about that person once they're in employment. Actually, are they able to work? Can they get to work? And is there adaptations in place for that person in a wheelchair? And then all of a sudden you think about people with vision impairments. How is that person meant to work in the office, for instance? So reasonable adjustments need to be made for individuals with certain vulnerabilities. Just kind of to Victoria's point, as you said, it ensures equal access to all individuals, no matter what. It promotes equal participation and engagement. So again, if you are in meetings, you're on events, you make sure that people feel part of that event / meeting. It fosters an inclusive and diverse environment and supports the compliance of the Equality Act 2010. Now, the Equality Act 2010 is what drives all of this. It's what really legally is in place for all service providers and employees. Basically, you are meant to be providing alternative formats to individuals, but the term reasonable adjustments goes down the financial route as well. So can you financially afford certain things as an organization? As I said, I do get asked this quite a lot. Do you have to make your communication inclusive? The answer is yes. You do have to. But when the individual speaks up, it's then all of a sudden you realize, especially if they mention the Equality Act to you, that's when all of a sudden you'll look into it and think, actually, we are discriminating against this person if we do not provide them the information in their preferred formats. Now, when I speak to banks, energy providers, for instance, many of our members still get this information in regular text. Now, regular text is probably about 10 to 12 font size in any kind of, let's say, font style, and there's no kind of appropriate formatting on that statement. Now, we'll talk about formatting shortly, but what I encourage our members is to then follow up to their bank, their energy provider, and tell them, sorry, I'd like to make complaints. And about the complaint is all about my communication. I'm unable to read the documents that you're sending me. It is my basic right. And all of a sudden, once they say that, they're like, okay, we'll pass it on to the complaints department. And then that's when I encourage them to mention the Equality Act. Within the Equality Act, reasonable adjustments are meant to be made, meaning communication methods. Alternative communication methods are meant to be used. And that goes for everyone in this room as well. If you have members and you are providing them with information, if they ask you for information in large prints, if they ask you for information in Braille, in CD form, then you do have a right to look into that to see if you are able to do it. If you are not able, you do have to provide a reason why you're unable to do that. And again, that could be a financial reason. So a little bit about the Equality Act, if anyone is unfamiliar with it. People who work in the care industry or third sector, you probably hear the Equality Act every day. But just in case, it ensures equal rights, opportunities, and access to services for individuals, addresses various forms of discrimination faced by individuals with disabilities, upholds equality and inclusivity for individuals with a disability and other protected characteristics. And as I said before, it mandates reasonable adjustments. Excuse me. Now, reasonable adjustments does get slightly messy in certain terms. Now, again, I'm approaching reasonable adjustments from someone with a vision impairment. Not many people know what reasonable adjustments within, let's say, a workplace, a service provider is. Now, that can be anything from, let's say, physical things, let's say lighting. So a reasonable adjustment for an individual in a place means that they can actually have adjustable lights. So to change the harshness of the lights above them. It could also mean that when someone goes into, works in an office and has a computer, that assistive technology is provided for them. So if things are read out aloud to that individual itself, and it might not be allowed, it might just be in the headphones that they have as well. And other reasonable adjustments, let's say from other disabilities, could be a ramp for someone with a wheelchair or someone with mobility issues to get into a building. And when they're in the building, it could be a lift for them to use. There's many things in offices, in businesses, that reasonable adjustments are in place. You will see at train stations, for instance, you will see that yellow line or white line on all the stairs leading up. That's to distinguish for someone with vision impairment where the step is, because sometimes that all blends into one and it might look like a slide to an individual with a certain condition. So those lines need to be put in place. Could I ask again, does anyone in this room provide any reasonable adjustments to someone, or does anyone use any reasonable adjustments for themselves?
We've got a hand up from
That's
Victoria.
okay.
So
Oh, sorry, is that Victoria?
yes, so so it's my job to design resources and provide training. So we make sure that we do have plain copy text, not just PDFs, because sometimes they don't work with readers. So they often exclude people, and we try to make sure that any training video has both closed captions and narration. Not quite audio description, but we generally are giving kind of good practice advice and not doing things pretty. But yeah, we do try to have those just as kind of standard practice, that yeah, different formats can be provided if needed.
That's very, Victoria, because with the term reasonable adjustments, and when you get down the kind of technical stuff you can get, it's as basic as that you said, just provide things in alternative format, and that will go a long way to the individuals, especially if you ask. If you ask straight out, they're like, oh, this organization does care. They do care if I can read or can't read, or can see or can't see. It's a nice little question to provide to someone. But what it does kind of get kind of messy when someone kind of asks, oh, actually, yes, I would like communication in Braille, please. And all of a sudden, do you have access to a Braille machine? No, you don't. Can you afford a Braille machine? You probably can't. They're quite expensive. Is the funding opportunities out there? Not a lot. So there's services out there that can provide you with Braille transcriptions if needed. But it's speaking to the individual and being like, okay, well, we don't have Braille, but we can maybe provide this to you in audio form. We can maybe read this out loud for you and send this to you in CD or USB form. It's not just saying no to the person that we can't do this. It's maybe seeing as any other options you can do. But again, to your point as well, Victoria, is just simplifying everything. It's making sure that your posters, your handout materials, anything is kind of simplified, and the fact that there's no information on there that's not relevant. As I said before, images are mainly there for decorative purposes as well. So it's not all about making your material fancy looking. It's making sure that all the information can be read or listened to. Thank you for that, Victoria. It's appreciated. So reasonable adjustments, just to kind of clarify, it's modifications made to accommodate individuals with disabilities, ensures equal access to opportunities and services. Again, there's lots of words saying that equal access, removes or mitigates barriers hindering full participation, and implemented in various aspects of life, including employment, education, and social activities. Again, we are all part of something in this realm. So we all do or should be trying to at least provide alternative formats. It's important to, as Victoria said, is just ask that individual, speak to them, ask them, what can we do for you to make our services easier for you to use? And there could be ideas that they throw at you, but like, I've never heard of this. And you might need to do some research, but that will help the next person that will take that question to you or make that point to you. There's many, many methods out there. I'm not going to talk about them all, but there's many methods that are out there. The most obvious ones are large print, CD form, Braille as well. But I'll show some examples of that shortly. I have a video here again. Now, this is of our colleague, Lindsay. Now, Lindsay's going to talk about the reasonable adjustments that she receives in our premises within Visibility Scotland. Now, Lindsay is visually impaired herself. and she's going to talk about what she's received. So I'm just going to play this video here, and shortly you should be able to see Lindsay pop up on the screen, and she's just doing an interview sat on the chair. There will be a part of it as well where it cuts
I am
away
Lindsay
to
Scott,
Lindsay.
and I'm family advocacy worker for Visibility Scotland. I'm registered as sight impaired due to various eye conditions. Initially, I had keratoconus, which caused me to have ulceration to the eye, leading to me getting corneal transplants, then get cancer in my eye, and that's led to my visual impairment. Visibility Scotland provide me with assistive technology. So I have software on my computer and an electronic magnifier. It's called Supernova, and mainly I use it for contrast, so I can't read black text on a white background, so I invert it so it's white text on a black background, which makes it easier for me to see. It also has magnification and speech, but that's not something that I use at the moment. Other reasonable adjustments that I get are that I can come in late or leave early during winter months when it's dark outside, because when I'm outside I find I can't see much at all. So normally I walk into work with someone else, but walking outside when it's dark is really difficult. I have applied for access to work to provide taxis, which means I will be able to come into work and do normal working hours.
Yeah. As I said, that's my colleague Lindsay. Now, she mentioned access to work. Now, for those people who are unfamiliar with access to work, this is a government-funded scheme for people with disabilities that are able to apply for access to work to help them find employment or stay in employment. Now, as Lindsay mentioned there, she's able to maybe get taxis into work, especially in the dark months. She's even able to apply for assistive technology, because as we know, technology is expensive. And also she's able to maybe, if she wanted to, apply for a support worker. Now, the support worker could be an assistant that sits next to her and that can read out the information that she's unable to do. But because she has assistive technology, i.e. that screen magnification and the contrast change, she can do it herself. So you won't know that Lindsay has a vision impairment due to these reasonable adjustments now put in place for her. She's able to do it all herself. She might need some help every now and again just to set things up. But majority of the days, like Lindsay does what Lindsay does her work and leaves work and comes back to work. But you wouldn't know that she is vision impaired until, let's say, the computer crashes and then you need to assist. So there's things out there that you do need to identify. There's things that you need to put in place first of all. So as I say, you need to identify the barriers, understand the certain condition that's out there, understand the person that you are providing the service to, their condition, and what they need from you. So you need to take proactive steps. As I said, conduct a meeting with them. Send out that question, as Victoria said, do you need any requirements, any alternative formats? And there might have to be a customized solution. So you might have to realize that you might do a few alternative formats for several people. But again, that we should all get in the habit of, once we have one format, okay, we'll keep that as a template. Now we'll do another template for someone else. Keep that in the database so you're not always creating documents. So when you do copy and paste onto the documents, it does format to what that document is set to. So trying to make less work for you. Effective communication, making sure that the person is happy with these reasonable adjustments in place, or happy with the documents you have said to them. Make sure that they are able to read it and they are happy. And an ongoing review. So don't just assume that the person is unable to see for the rest of their life. It could be just that week or that month that they've had an operation, it's been bad for them, but all of a sudden, the next few months later, they've now got some form of sight, so they might need some changes made to the documents being sent. So it's always having that regular communication, asking people, is this still working for you? And if not, what can we do for you? So the different methods of inclusive communication. So alternative hard copy formats. There's communication professionals. Now, communication professionals could be BSL interpreters, could be note takers. There's also a profession out there called lip reading. So lip readers are people that literally mimic everything that's being said in a room, but faces directly in front of the individual with a vision impairment or a hearing impairment, and will just use their mouth. And they will just talk without using words, but will just use their mouth to mimic what is being said. So someone will just focus on that mouth itself. And especially helpful for someone with retinitis pigmentosa who has limited vision and can just focus on someone's mouth and look at the words, and they might be able to kind of pull that all together. Again, lots of information does get missed, but the person who's focused on that service will miss facial expressions all around the room as well. Also, you need to think about audio and visual alternatives. As I said, try not to use graphs and images. Just describe the data if you can. Of course, still have on the screen if you need to have on the screen for people within the room, but make sure you are describing the changes within the graph. Let's say the dates, the months, when there's a sudden change in it, especially with like project reports and stuff. Accessible digital documents. Now, again, with accessible digital documents, we will be getting into that and how to make digital documents accessible. There's methods in place. It's not just sending someone a document and assuming their screen reader will read it all out. It's not as simple as that, unfortunately. There's methods in place that you need to make sure you are doing to make sure all information on the document is read out aloud and nothing is missed. And other includes communication, as I said before, is assistive technology. There's lots of little devices out there that can assist someone. So accessible communication, as you mentioned, is Braille. It's out there, which is the image on my left, which is as some hands going across the screen, going across the Braille document itself. Very little dots if people are unfamiliar with it. You do tend to see it quite often still in lifts and in medication, but it is slowly dying away due to the fact that technology is now advancing. And if someone with a vision impairment, they still have their hearing, so they'll tend to use their hearing over their touch, let's say. Another one is called Moon. Now, I'll be surprised if anyone has heard of Moon before. If you have, please speak up now. I'm always fascinated to see how you do know of Moon and if you use it. But Moon is another alternative format of the documents. It is raised text. Now, on the screen itself, on the right image, you will see your standard A to Z alphabet, and above each letter, there is the Moon version of that. Now, this is printed on swell paper. Now, swell paper, what happens with that is once ink is printed, and once the ink touches heat, it goes through like a heat embosser. You can actually use a hairdryer if you want to as well, but once, let's say, it goes through a professional heat embosser, all that text will rise, meaning that it becomes tactile information. Now, I like to tell people about this methods and about this kind of style of communication because you don't have to just use it for written words. You can use it for maps as well as directions. You can use it for block alphabet as well. Now, block alphabet can be tactile version of the standard A to Z alphabet where someone's able to feel, but it's in larger print. But very useful for maps, in instance. Let's say you have an office space and members are allowed to come in, maybe at the reception, just to let people be independent. Might be just be a map of the reception area and where the toilet is and where the reception desk is and where the exit is. Simple information that you just want members to do, just so, again, independently, they can do it themselves instead of always asking people. Someone to be made aware of if that is of interest. Other form of communication methods is simple as magnifiers. If you are not sending someone large print, they will have to rely on a magnifier for themselves, which can be a handheld magnifier, a magnifier that's a stand that goes on top of the document or on top of someone's lap, or a globe form as well. I'd always look at the RNIB websites because they have loads of different types of magnifiers. If you are a service provider, you might just maybe want to have a few of these around. They're only a few £, each, or even on Amazon itself, they're pennies, really. So it might be worth to have a few of these around. Other forms of communication that's out there is tactile markings. As I said, you've got the tactile map. That is more of a hard version of a tactile map, which is the sensor image here. But then you also have information that we see every day, especially if you're walking to work, is tactile pavements. Now, tactile pavements are out there for someone who with vision impairments to identify certain hazards that they are approaching, i.e. for this case, the first image on the left is someone is approaching a staircase. So what they see is the corduroy pavements. So as they approach that with, say, let's say their cane, or if they're not using the cane, they might just use their feet itself, they'll be able to identify kind of those lines as, okay, what's on my feet now? It means there's a hazard and it means there's stairs approaching me. So I need to be cautious. Other ones that are out there are for train stations, for trams, for segregated bike lanes as well. And the obvious ones are at pedestrian crossings, which is the L shape that you'll see. And as there are all those raised dots everywhere, that is for people with vision impairments. And that's their information to let them know that there's a hazard next to them. Other tactile markers you could find on staircases, on going up with the handrails. There could be braille information on there to let them know, as simple as you are on ground 1. And you don't want to go into more information because there might be too many rooms within there with too many services. It might just say ground 1. Could have some buttons, which is the middle image here, which has little dots, which are stickers, but tactile stickers that you can put on anything. We tend to put them in the office itself here because I don't know about you guys, but within an office space, there's several light switches that you don't know which is what's for what, for instance. So what we do for people who are vision impaired who work here, we put the bump-ons on the lights that are for them, that might be directly above them. So they can press that if they are feeling quite tired and their eyes are straining. So they can go up to the light switch and turn their light off, which might be the light directly above them. And again, they don't need to ask anyone to do that for them. And as simple as the signages. So the last image there on my right is braille being put underneath signs. Again, so make sure that someone's able to read that information. But it might be as simple as, instead of just doing 2 versions, there's regular text and braille, why don't you just do block letters where someone's able to read that information? Again, it's always good to ask your members if these ideas, if these changes go to be put in place, put these ideas out to members, to your colleagues, and see if it does work. This is just me throwing everything out there for you to see what kind of, what you bite at. So, assistive technology. Now, as I said at the start of the session, I do encourage everyone to come to Visibility Scotland and speak to our digital advisor, Craig. He's our expert in all assistive technology devices. There's many devices out there, and it's quite hard to keep up to date with the new ones that are coming through. But really, we do mainly encourage our members to use their phones, a smartphone, for instance, because most of their smartphones now have very good accessibility devices on them. But in case someone doesn't want to use their phone and get confused with it, there's certain devices out there, which I'll talk through right here. We have our digital magnifier. As it says, it's a magnifier that's digital. I'll play the video here that should come up next to it. You'll see a quick video of a demonstration of me turning it on. And what I can do with this magnifier is change the background of the text. So right now it's yellow with blue text. Now it's now all of a sudden it's black with white text. And it depends for the person itself. They may just flick through it all to see what's easier for them on that moment. And then they're able to zoom in to a word, a single word if they wanted to. And again, quite a simple device. They can take pictures of the document they want and then slowly zoom into it whenever they want to. But again, as I said before, your phone does this. All mobile phones now do this. As simple as just using your camera of a document and zooming into it. Some people with certain difficulties, they still find that difficult to do. But this is where we step in and say, we know that this could be pricey, so why don't we teach you how to use your phone instead? But again, as I said, people do prefer to have one device for one thing. There's another device out there called text-to-speech. Now, this text-to-speech device, there's many things out there, But what this does, it highlights a square, and what you're able to do is then point that square at a document or at a poster or at any form of information. And again, I've got the video here will play, and it will give you a demonstration of what happens here. You turn the device on, press one button just to get the square or the rectangle above it. And then it's quite low there, but what it's doing, it's reading out that information to that individual themselves. Within this as well, they can get phones that are connected to this, so you don't have to take a picture and it'll be read out and annoy everyone around you. They can still wear headphones for this. But again, going back to the point, all of our phones do this as well. Now, you're going to see a blank screen at the moment. There will be another video playing. But firstly, again, you don't have to answer this question, but I do kind of want to know, does anyone use any assistive technology? Or does anyone know of anyone that uses assistive technology? Maybe within a service or within the job that you have?
I've worked with people who have used a lot of like screen reading type things. That's been quite common.
And does that screen just read out loud, does it quite often, or?
Yeah, and then they set it really fast because they get so used to how quick it can read and things. But yeah, so it reads out loud. They have put it in their headphones sometimes, but normally they just have it out loud.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating when they have it, let's say, 3 times the speed, and it does to the regular person sound not so like gibberish, but it's like, how are you able to follow that? But as you said, because they've done it for many, many years, or that's all they've known all their life, they're able to listen to things a lot quicker than what we are. I've tried, I don't know if many other people do this, but I've tried now to listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed to slowly incorporate that to see if I can get my hearing up to speed. I didn't catch your name there that popped up. It didn't pop up on my screen.
Was that me, Alice?
Thank you, Alice. Appreciate that. Anybody else to add? What I'll do right now, as I said, there's a blank screen, but there's going to be a video coming up. Now, this will be a quick video. I'll probably stop it after about 20 seconds, but this will get you an idea of what it sounds like and, let's say, looks like for someone using assistive technology, i.e. a screen reader software. But this is what you'll see is a document that's been sent to an individual that's not been formatted correctly. And next, I'll show you how to format your document appropriately. So I'll just play this video here. And title for this is Inaccessible Documents. And again, you've got the Word document coming up.
2.96 centimeters wide by 1.96 centimeters high, text wrapping behind text. Text box 2, text box 6.38 centimeters wide by 8.04 centimeters high, text wrapping in front of text. Mr. Joe Blogs, 1 New Road, Lenzie, East Dunbartonshire, Glasgow, G882N2, private and confidential. Your upcoming appointment with ophthalmology department at Gardnerville Hospital. Dear Mr. Blogs, we have booked you an appointment with our ophthalmology department at Gardnerville Hospital. Appointment type: in-person appointment. Date: 03/02/2024. Time: 10:45 a.m. Department: Ophthalmology Department. Location: 1053.
Okay, just going to stop it there and just bring it back slightly just so we can see the document itself on the screen. Now, at the start of that kind of speech, you heard lots of random numbers and letters being sent. Any idea of what that screen reader was trying to read out loud before it said Mr. Joe Blogs?
Was it the size of the document?
Good point. That kind of, but not the document itself.
The like design formatting for like the boxes and the layout of how they've put everything laid out.
Essentially, that's it, Emma. Yeah, it's the design of what is on that screen, what's on that document itself. So at the moment, if I wanted this highlight pen works for me, I'll try and do it. But I'm just going to scratch it out there. Doesn't help that I've scratched it out. But the Scotland's logo there, I'm just going to erase that. But there's a logo that's hid within the heading or hid within somewhere that's been copied and pasted and is not being formatted appropriately. So instead of reading the alternative text, which I'll get into shortly, it's read out the web description, and that's random numbers and text, and then also the size of it. And because it's in that pattern, what happened at the start, before it described that logo image, it described the document because it's not being set. So what's happened is that speech basically said, be warned, there's lots of random numbers that I'm going to say to you right now based off how this has been formatted. So what should happen in this instance is that that logo or that image, you should provide alternative text on that. And what would happen, normally it would just say image of NHS Scotland logo. But at the moment, we can't see that because the contrast for this device has been changed, and it's only highlighting the words on this, which is Scotland. NHS has been taken out because this device is unable to see it because it's not formatted appropriately. There's other things on the screen as well, which we will dive into, but I kind of want to highlight why we got this on the screen is that there's certain information when it got after Mr. Joe blogs and told about his address, it then went on to your upcoming appointments. It missed out the information on the right side, which is who it's from, which is Dr. Good. I don't worry, these are made up names. If it's not as obvious as it is, it's a made up letter, but this is a common letter that, again, our members do receive. But the reason why that information was missed on the right side is because, let's say, Dr. Good, because he does this so many times, he was just copied and pasted that text. Now, he's just copied and pasted a text box, and that text box has come up as an image. And because they've copied and pasted the text box, that wording and loads of random letters and numbers that you read out aloud, that got read out. It just gave how big that box is. It was only able to describe what was in the box because it's not text, it's an image to that person or to this technology. So again, you need to make sure you are typing. I got a hand there. Was that Julie Ellen?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me now?
Hi, Julie. I can, yes.
I apologize, I was using the wrong technology. It was your question about using assistive technology. As my eyesight has gotten worse from just old age, from aging, actually reading things has become particularly difficult, particularly in shopping labels. And when it first became so difficult, I would actually have to take a photo on my phone and expand something to read. So on a basic level, that's kind of the things that I've been doing, changing the font size on my phone, changing font size on my computer, has sort of alleviated that problem. But very interested in the apps that you mentioned, although I've just noticed I can't get that on my phone, the version on my phone, but I will definitely look into that, because just generally picking up something in the supermarket and having no idea, you want to read the label. I have no ability to do that. I'm sort of holding it really close to my eyes.
It's very common, Julie, as well, because what I notice as well, like especially in shops, like you will see every so often someone doing that method, and they might not have, let's say, a condition, as you just said, their eyes are just getting old, and they're just getting strained over the simplest of things. And people are more and more using the method of just getting their phones out and zooming into it. But it's about taking care of your eyes now, or let's say going back in the past, where what we should have done. And that's what you're saying now is making your text a little bit bigger so you're not squinting at documents. Adjusting your light on your computer so it's not always bright, especially if you're in the office all day. And it's maybe, as what I do quite often right now, is I actually have a black background with white text because it's not that bright, and I'm not getting eye strain throughout the day. I might do when I'm in a bright space, but at least I'm limited my light intake, and that's all kind of what we need to do. Could I ask, Julie, what phone do you currently have? Is it an Android or an Apple? Could I ask?
It's an Android. It's
Great.
yeah, Samsung Galaxy, but I tried to find the Seeing AI app that you mentioned,
Mhm.
but it's not it's not compatible with my version
Well,
of
actually,
phone.
what I'll do as well is once I send out the toolkits to Robin, I'll put some kind of links as well to certain apps that you could find useful, maybe additional ones, because I myself, for my web page, I have an iPhone and it's on the iPhone, so I was made aware that it is for all apps, all phones, sorry. So I'll double check that for you, Julie, because again, it'll be useful for all, and you'll be able to signpost it onto people as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And just to kind of state, just on that subject, Google Glass is a good thing to use as well. Don't know if many people use Google Glass, or sorry, Google Lens on your phone. And Google Lens is very good because it does speak out text. But I use it when I go traveling quite a lot because it translates random, let's say French or Spanish to me, and it does it in English. And again, it speaks out loud as well. So very useful if you do have an Android. Just to dive through here, if it's also, I do want to talk about accessible documents guidelines. Now, this is the documents that you will get given after today's session. I know there's going to be lots of information I'm going to say right now, and there will be a few videos as well to demonstrate how to do it. But as I said, document will be sent out, and it is a video recording of this. So we'll try and fire through this just a little bit quickly, if that's okay. So best practice tips here. Use clear, consistent, readable font styles. Just use Arial. Any sans serif, but use Arial. That's because all assistive technology devices are built to use Arial. If you try and use any other fancy styles, information may get missed. It's not saying it will, it might get missed. So always try and use Arial. Font size for electrical documents is 14 point minimum. Now, automatically, your document should just be 14, and then ask individuals, would you like larger prints? A larger print could be anything from 18 to 26 to 36. You decide how large you want to go. Just think realistically, how much can you print out for one document? Base it off that. For printed material, it's 18 point size is minimum. My apologies. Now 18 point size is quite large in comparison what our regular font style would be. Let's say it's 12 for the regular person. But again, if there's not a lot of information on a document, and if you can expand it to 1 page still or 2 pages, you might as well. Like there's no point. They're just making it very small and limits what's on the paper itself, and again making people like myself squint and look at that. Just make it larger if you can, if it's possible. Keep text and images left aligned. Now that's for printed and electrical documents, and the reason why I say left aligned is imagine someone who is a magnifier user excuse me, and if someone who, when they are trained to use the magnifier, they have the document in front of them and they are told to scan from the left to the right. If information is on the middle of the screen, i.e., let's say a heading is in the middle of the document, sorry, they might skip that. They might not know that that is there when they're going through all the paragraphs on the screen. So make sure your headings and titles and images are all on the left, because that's what that individual will see first when they're scanning using a magnifier, looking at that document itself. Use 1.5 line spacing. Now, that spreads out the information a lot easier for someone to read. Now, there's not just people with, let's say, vision impairments. It could be other kind of mental disabilities. Let's say someone with dyslexia, for instance. Words are less jumbled around when they are spread out a little bit more. So 1.5 spacing is what we do for all our documents. And font color is set to automatic. I normally ask the question, does anyone know what color that is? Is automatic, but I'll leave that. We might all know already is that when you go into your Word documents or into your emails, once you click on your font color, the first one there is automatic. Click on automatic, and that won't change anything for you. But what it will do is when you're sending that formatted document to an individual with vision impairments, their software will automatically change that font color to what their preference is. If you set it as black, not automatic, and you send it to them and they have a black background already set up, they might not be able to read that image. They might have to actually try and copy it and try and format it themselves, and information may get missed in that scenario. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it makes things difficult for the individual receiving it. So it doesn't change anything for us. Just keep it as just as a default as automatic. Use headings to structure a document. Now, if you're unaware of headings, there is going to be a video showcasing what headings are and how to add them in. But imagine headings as, let's say, tracks within a CD. So if there's no tracks in a CD, you're unable to skip, you might have to listen to all of the CD itself. That's similar for headings. So let's say you get policies and procedures sent to you. You're a new employee, you have to read through all these all this documents. It might take you a few days. You can skip through the headings with your device. If you don't have headings set up, you may have to just fast forward, stop, fast forward, and stop. That becomes very frustrating to the person. So incorporate headings. And again, I'll show you how to add that within the style section. Use page breaks to move to the next page. Again, simplifies the document, makes it easier to scan. Avoid using text boxes, because as I said before, some assistive devices think that's an image and will not describe what is in that box itself. Do not print on double-sided, especially if you don't have thick paper. There's lots of bleed through with paper, and some people with certain technology, so let's say if they've got a magnifier, they might put on their screen the device kind of up. They might use the magnifier, sorry, the document, use magnifier, and they're getting the bleed through from the background of the text that's behind it. They're unable to see it, getting confused. If you have thick paper, there's no issues with that, but thick paper is quite expensive. We try and just use one-sided prints. Add alternative text for images, and also add captions as well. So if your material is going to be electronical version and a printed version, you're going to have to use captions underneath, which is an image description or photo description underneath the image itself, and also incorporate alt text within there. And again, there's going to be a video shortly showing you how to add alternative text within an image, which is something you won't see on the screen itself. And just a few more tips here is use bold and not caps. Again, a screen reader will change the tone of their voice if it's in caps. So if you're trying to emphasize something, just use bold, use bold. It may mention bold within it just to make the points, but if you use caps, as some people do who text, sometimes use text to shout at people, and that's what the individual may actually receive is a different tone to the speaker. Include end of documents at all documents itself. And again, imagine a long document, someone's getting a screen reader to read it out aloud to them, and they will know that at the end when it says end of documents. And also that end of document should be a heading as well, so they can skip. And when they hear end of document, they know they can go back a few, so they don't have to go back to the start. They could have their system set up as a loop, meaning that if an end of document isn't said out loud, it may go back to the start and carry on reading it again from page 1. So it's always good to incorporate end of documents in all of documents. Spell out numbers less than 10. Now, all the information I'm giving you right now is just not me saying this is what you should do. This is based off our accessible forum. Now, these are all people with lived experience. These are people all with sight impairments, vision impairments, who are all blind. And they tell me their preference, and we send documents to them, they make some adjustments, and this is all their information that they told me. They prefer it if you spell out numbers less than 10. It's easier for them to read and scan instead of, but when it's long form numbers, i.e., let's say a phone number, of course, type in the number for that, the actual numbers itself. Include descriptive document title. Let's just, for example, argument's sake, let's say all of a sudden you've left your job and someone with a vision impairment is coming in. They need to know what those documents are called appropriately. What we do here is that we have departments and then all of a sudden the title of documents, just to keep it organized as well. You guys all might have your methods within a document saved, but it's especially important when you are sending documents, let's say via email, make sure those attachments has appropriate names to them. So quickly, just alternative text, just some tips is what I'll do, is make sure you use short sentences and maybe keep it to 1, 2 maximum. Describe the information, not the designs and anything like that. Use normal punctuation within it because the screen reader is trained to do that. Don't start with a photo of or an image of, because again, the screen reader will already say an image of. So you don't want an image of, and then that will say it. For complex images, provide further explanation elsewhere or in the photo or caption description if you want to. And don't rely on automatically generated alt text. Now you'll see what I mean when I play this video shortly. Once it pops up, let's say in your Word, there will be automatic generation AI feature there. So quickly, I will describe these images that are coming up on the screen, just to give you an idea of what you can say for certain images like this. So for instance, hand holding the phone with accessibility logo. That's it. Don't need to describe the colors or anything where the position is. This one. A person running down the street wearing athletic wear. If you wanted to, if it's relevant, you can describe what the person's wearing, especially if it's, let's say, a clothes brand magazine. They might want to get into the details of that. If you know the street, if it's for members and it's all of a sudden you are very familiar with that street, you might want to give the street name itself. I always avoid gender use. I always try and stick to person. It's a lot easier and safer that way, especially if you're doing social media posts as well. Yep. A person watering plants. Simple as that. Don't need to go into detail what's around him and how many plants they are and the color of them. And an adult and child on the boat in the sea. Could be that, could be something else, or adult child on the boat. You're assumed on the sea anyway. If you want to, a happy adult and child on the sea. Again, you do it for what your personality is, but don't go into too much detail of it all. And what you'll see here now is I'm going to play some videos of what I've just spoken about here, just to kind of give you a visual idea of how to add this in. So imagine you've copied and pasted your image, go all the way down to view alt text within the options. The right side, you will see generate AI feature on there. You can put in, if you like it, use it. A person running on a street. That's simple. That's what I want. Let's use it. If you want more of a personality to it, add stuff to it if you want to. But for me, for that purpose, that was great. But don't always rely on generate AI. So this is how to add 1.5 line spacing. So you go up top of your toolbar, there's a section called paragraph. So after you've highlighted everything, click on that, you'll see 2 arrows, one pointing up, one pointing down, and with several lines side by side. Select that and do 1.5 line spacing. Quick video here now to show you how to add automatic text, just in case you're thinking, or if no one's go onto the Word documents to actually check this out, see if I'm saying the truth. I am. When you go into font colors, it's automatic. That's the first color that will pop up. It doesn't change the document itself, doesn't change any color out. I would always say set that as your default all the time. The video here is how to add headings. Now, the headings features are all in the styles section of the toolbar itself. Again, as you're always meant to do, is highlight the heading that you want. So in this case, it's assistive technology. I want this to be heading 2. So usually you have a title or heading above that, which is heading 1. And then it changes it. For people who are able to see, it becomes, there's like a little triangle feature to the left of it. And they're able to click on this to let the text disappear or reappear. That kind of makes it easier for ourselves to scan through documents. But for people with vision impairments, again, it's because they need to skip through the headings. Make sure that feature's in place. You've not just written it and put in bold. That's not formatted appropriately. And kind of quickly here, talking about hyperlinks and descriptive hyperlinks, what we are meant to do and what not to do. Very common, and I imagine many of you in this room might actually just do the paste and copy job, as in to find out more, visit the long web page, which again, for someone with assistive technology, all they will hear is HTTPS:// I'm not going to say it all, but that takes a while for the assistive technology to read out aloud. Or what you may find is to find out more, click here. A person, if they want to click on it there and then, who's using assistive technology, can. But if they want to go back to it and use their device, their assistive technology, to look through all of the hyperlinks might actually be called here. So they have a separate feature with all the images, all the headings, and all the hyperlinks. If all the hyperlinks are called here, they have to click on all of them to find the actual one that they want to go onto. So we need to make sure that we are using descriptive hyperlinks. We are changing the words within there to make sure the person's able to understand what the hyperlink is for. So for instance, to find out more, visit the training and trading page on our website. Then underneath that is Visibility Scotland's trading and training page as a descriptive hyperlink. Or you can put it within the sentence itself. To find out more, visit Visibility Scotland's trading and training page, which is the hyperlink page on our website, or something like that. So again, making it easier for someone to receive it. Just think about the hazards or barriers that they may find when that comes up. And then certain website designs, which I'm not going to get into too much right now, but again, should always have the accessibility logo in the top left. And then making sure that your emails have the same principles as our Word documents that I'm saying about. Your email should have all of the same best practice features that I've talked about. And then communications in person is what I talk about more when we are doing sessions together. So if you have any more questions about that, please follow up with me if we can. And that is the end of the session. I do apologize, Robin. I do know I've kind of talked a little bit too long. I do apologize, but if there's a moment that we can have any questions, if any questions are kind of needed to be asked right now, please say your piece.
We've got a question from Emma in the chat that is, how do you find the balance between keeping image descriptions brief and concise with helping people from underrepresented communities feel seen in your work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So when we, let's say, for instance, for ourselves, we have newsletters. We have quarterly newsletters that goes out to our members. And within the newsletter, there's many images on there as well, because many members still do have some sites. We don't want to exclude those people that want to see these images, want to see members being happy. But we also provide photo description underneath that. Again, keeping it slightly short. But then we also have an alternative section at the end, which goes into more detail of all these images to make sure people aren't missing out on any information. Again, that's an additional page just to make it easier for someone to scan, and that could be provided within an index to let someone know. But yeah, it's unfortunately, as we all know, you will always unfortunately disappoint someone. It's yes, we are trying to help all people, but there is someone out there that might not like that idea, and we will always try and find an alternative method for them. Good question. And Helen, I see you've got your hand up there.
Yeah, sorry to hold. I've got two questions, if that's okay. The first one's just around accessibility checkers. So our IT company recommended that we used one for our newsletter, and it was really interesting. And the main thing that picked up was the click here, which I was very guilty of. But I just wondered what your views are on them, and if you do think they're a useful thing to use.
Yeah, they are. They are very useful to get in the habit of using, especially if you have a large document, and it will keep you right. It will tell you about alt text not being provided for certain images. It will tell you about you've used certain styles, font styles here, but not here. It will keep you right, but it won't tell you everything. So it's always worthwhile just clicking that, just to be like, oh, okay, so this seems right. Oh God, yeah, good job I did that because I would have missed it. So yeah, I would suggest using it, but don't rely on it.
No. The other question is just, we had an online network meeting this week and we had somebody using a screen reader, and she really struggled with the chat because everyone did an introduction in the chat. There was about 40 people on this meeting. At the end of the meeting, she just said, I really struggled with that. So we, as an organisation, are thinking, how can we do this differently? Or is there anything you could recommend that we should have done at that situation?
Yeah, what we do, especially with our team meetings, we turn off chat, just because for that case itself, everything I'd said in chat for the person using a screen reader or a device, it will read out aloud. And once it's reading out aloud with the chat, they're missing what's happening in real time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it gets very confusing and messy.
That's what she
We
said.
just
Yeah.
take that away or ask the people to not type in anything. Just put your virtual hand up and say things out aloud.
Okay.
Understand certain scenarios that people do feel quite uncomfortable to speak on camera and to random people. So we also ask that if questions are asked, leave them to set times if they have to be in the chat function, and people
Okay.
need to be kind of quiet in those scenarios. But no, very good question, Alan.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. And I see Ryan, you've got your hand up there.
Thanks, Adam. This morning's been great. Just a question on, I suppose, document formats. Would you always have a preference of HTML versions of content rather than a PDF? I know you've obviously spoke about some ways to make a PDF accessible, but I think at least how I have kind of very basic understanding of it, you can never make it truly entirely accessible. And is that why you should at least try to use an HTML version, a standard web page, if possible?
Completely. There is a reason that I do avoid talking about PDFs, because they are accessible, but they have limitations within the accessibility features within there. When I speak to, let's say, council people, let's say care workers, especially people who do assessments, they use PDF forms, they use applications, and they expect the individuals that support them to use it and read it as well. But within PDFs, there's lots of drop-down functions, there's lots of boxes, there's information on the left and information on the right. It gets very confusing for the person trying to navigate that sort of document. So yeah, we have tried and transferred that information onto a Word document or HTML as well, just to make it easier for people to navigate. But again, there's people out there that have to use PDFs and they can't use anything else. So there is, when I do talk about this training more in depth and in person, I do go through some features of PDFs that you can use. But yeah, appreciate your point there, Ryan, because it is a messy world. And any final questions at all? No problem. I do encourage everyone to kind of take down my information. I'm not saying that I'm available all the time, but I'm available by email all the time. So please take down my email. Any questions that come up after today's session, or anything that you kind of feel like your members and our members can kind of combine somehow, or our services can combine. We're always interested in trying to support people in the best way we can. And we feel like the best way to do that is combine resources with other organizations. So for those people that need it, my email address is adam.lodge@visibilityscotland.org.uk. And the standard Visibility Scotland email is info@visibilityscotland.org.uk. And our contact number is 0141 332 4632. Yeah, encourage questions, and I appreciate everyone attending today. I hope everyone got what they wanted out of it.
Thanks for being such an engaged group. You've been wonderful, and this has been really interesting. Thanks so much, Adam. Yeah, have a lovely day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you again, Robin.